You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension. A dimension of truth. A dimension of freedom. A dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
Hey folks, where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner. I am your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair, Michael Liebowitz, who is also the host of many and sundry shows on this channel. Michael, tell us what's going on your shows. I'm in the dark continent, I was just in Austria, now I'm back in Paris. I'm shrouded in philosophical darkness.
Yes.
So please bring some light to me, man.
Well, what I am going to say, in my view, is the best interview I've ever had with this guy, Valrice Cooper. It's on this channel. It's a special edition of Crime, Corrections, and Culture. Everybody should watch it. Great interview, great story. Starts off very sad, ends up a very feel-good kind of story. Awesome. Check it out. That's really all I have to say. Everyday Ethics is canceled today because I have to get to work. So we might have to cut this maybe 5 minutes short. That's not why there's a short title, Greg. To be honest, somebody gave me advice about titles. They told me maybe I should switch it up. So I switched it up a little bit. That's all.
Where's Persephone, by the way?
She's not here today or tomorrow.
Okay. It's weird. It's weird doing the show without Persephone. It's like there's a hole that we can't fill when she's gone.
And can you just explain to everybody the text that you sent me, the very confusing text that I got from you today?
Oh, yeah. So, folks, I had a 4 o'clock appointment here in Paris that I thought for sure would go over time. And so I told Michael, look, I won't be able to make Capitalist Corner today, but I'll try to get in for Everyday Ethics later on. He's like, oh, great. Okay, fine. He's been having to deal with this nonsense for a while now, so I think it's becoming something he's getting used to. Maybe not. Anyway, I texted him an hour later and says, no, I can make it now. But apparently I said it in a weird way because he's like, what? Yeah, I can make the show now. My appointment's getting canceled. I can't quite make it fit, so I can make it now.
Yeah, but you had previously told me you might be able to make Everyday Ethics. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about. And you're also throwing all these times at me that make no sense because I don't know the time zone you're in.
Right. Yeah, because I was saying I could probably make it by 6:30 or 7 o'clock, but I'm saying the time in Europe here. And, of course, he has to make those translations in his head to East Coast time, which is 6 hours behind. Anyway, it so happened that, my wife getting back from Austria herself today it threw a wrench in my plans of doing this other appointment, so I had to put it off till tomorrow. So the good news is I'm here today.
And you got a lot of reading done, dude, in a very short period. I'm impressed.
Well, the bad news is, Michael, the stuff that you sent me has sent me into a depression spiral. And you know what will make me feel better, a little bit better, Michael? Some super chats and super stickers, because I got to tell you, what makes me, everybody out there who knows anything about economics or knows anything about the state of the economy should know that we have now reached a debt that is 100% of our GDP. Now, way back when, Michael, that when they postulated when the debt would reach a dangerous tipping point, it was about 80% of the GDP, if it's a sustained 80% of the GDP. Thank you very much, Jenna Kleem. You can always be relied on to pick up our spirits with that $5. Thank you so much from South Dakota. So, Michael, they postulated that 80% was the possible tipping point. Of course, we've been at this state before. Right after World War II, we had a debt to GDP ratio that was 100%. Of course, we had a very different situation facing us at the time, Michael. We had a growing population, a young population. We had industrial supremacy since the entirety of Europe had been wiped out, pretty much. We had an open market, production capable of blazing forward ahead, and a young population ready to populate that workforce and get us producing again. Today, we have the opposite, Michael. We have an aging population, so we don't have the youth to take over. We aren't the only ones standing. We have tons of competitors out there, which should make us vigorous, but of course it doesn't with economic nationalism. And we have a entitlement state that continues to grow at its own pace, and a legislature that is unwilling to put the brakes and declare financial responsibility and to start trimming down this national debt. So there's no political will to do it. We don't have the same kind of population or industrial dynamics that we did before. We're not the only industrial power standing. So and Michael, 23% of our debt is owned by foreign countries that can cash in that debt at any time, which could create a great debt crisis for us. So, man, I am feeling a little fucked up right now. I got to be honest with you.
Yeah. So I'm wicked depressed, and I had a hard night sleeping. I've also have a cluster headache in my over in my left eye. So I really can't help with your, how upset you are about this, because I'm not doing very great myself. But, the debt, right? First of all, Robert Nasir helps out. He said, acting, podcasting, which one pays the bills? My bills, it's the podcasting. So that's the answer to that, Robert. But he does say provides for the billionaire lifestyle. So that would be Mark's acting, and pays the taxes to service the debt, which, by the way, so the interest on the debt,
Can I just
hold on. Advance against my first Social Security check, $5 from Greg Lewis. Thank you, Greg.
Greg, I just want you to know that you will be means tested out, and all that money you put into Social Security will not come to you, my friend.
No.
Or the other option that I've been told by my financial advisors is they will cut you a check and tax it at 100%. So you will get a check for zero. Isn't that wonderful, Michael?
Right. So Jim Valiant makes a great point that federal spending dropped by 75% in real terms between 44 and 47, with federal expenditures falling from 44% of GDP to under 15%. So there was a commitment back then to getting the house in order that we just don't have now. So that's an additional thing. The interest that we pay on the debt is more than we pay for national security, for the military expenditures. So, I was thinking about a few things this morning in relation to this. And one was that it's, first of all, the main drivers of the debt are Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, none of which are advocated, or rather authorized, in Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. So this is what happens when you go against the constitutional restraints, the actual limits on government. You end up with a debt that's not sustainable. I think they said in 10 years, was it, Mark, that it's going to reach 120% of GDP?
Yeah, which is now the new benchmark that they think will be the absolute tipping point that we won't be able to reverse from that point on.
And you end up with a slowing economy, right? Lower employment. And that's without a full-fledged fiscal crisis, right? But to me, a key here is the entire experiment that is America, that is classical liberalism, is dependent on the rule of law. It's that men cannot just arbitrarily decide things. There's supposed to be restraints on government that protect us. But the ultimate restraint is us. But the American people just aren't into restraining the government any longer, not in regards to regulations, entitlement spending, foreign wars, whatever the case may be. The populace just doesn't seem that they are willing to do the work to restrain the government. Robert Nasir, however, is a guy who will do the work. He gives us $10 and says the super chat is sponsored by Studio Nasir, where I am currently narrating, mastering, and producing the audiobook version of The Fruit of the Tree, Book 3 of the Idolatry series by Quint Cordair. All right, Robert.
Quint is a great artist in his own right, and teaming up with another great artist, Robert Nasir. Thank you so much for that. If you want any additional voices on that, let me know. I'd love to be a part of something that Quint is the creator of. That would be great, because I got to tell you, I got to do so much stuff that is not really pleasing to me aesthetically. It pays the bills, but it's not pleasing to me aesthetically. And I would surely love to say words that Quint Cordair has written. That would be fantastic. Yeah, Michael, in a few years, we're going to reach that 120% tipping point. And what do we do then? Because the Congress has absolutely no incentive to change course. I mean, they've got plenty of reality incentives because we're heading for the cliff. No political incentive to change course because, Michael, everybody wants the subsidies, other people's subsidies to stop, but they don't want their subsidies to stop. And so long as we have 51% of the population dependent on a government paycheck in some way, shape, or form, we're fucked. It ain't going to end unless somebody can take the reins, my friend.
And it is, and this is kind of a nice place to pivot. It's ultimately a national security threat in many ways, right? I mean, the economy can tank. We can end up in another, great recession or even depression. But also, we are unable to pay for national security. The less money that we have, the less money we have that goes to national security. And I just have some quotes here. So national security leaders across 8 Republican and Democratic administrations warned a decade ago, long-term debt is the single greatest threat to our national security. Excessive debt slows economic growth, reduces income levels, raises interest rates, and constrains funding for core government functions like national defense. That is from now they've gone away on me, from the bipartisanpolicy.org. A Cato Institute, we have a great article from them also that talks about it. I actually asked Claude, what was the greatest national security threat? Is it the national debt? What would be a greater threat, national debt or Iran? So here was the answer from Claude. My honest assessment. I think the national debt is the greater long-term threat precisely because it's systemic. Iran can be deterred, contained, or defeated militarily. The debt is a slow-moving crisis with no military solution. It threatens U.S. power projection, dollar dominance, social stability, and institutional credibility simultaneously. Historically, great powers have fallen more reliably from fiscal collapse than from foreign adversaries. It goes on to talk about that Iran is the more immediate threat, but I find that interesting that historically countries more often fall from lack of fiscal restraint than they do from war, but yet nobody seems to want to learn the lessons.
Well, Michael, I think that's what you popularly hear about the fall of Rome was that they fell because they became morally depraved. They really fell because they became basically a socialist institution that handed out grain to everybody and just started spending all their money in the public sphere. And that weakened them to such a degree that, when the barbarians invaded, they had no power to defend themselves against them. And this is the situation we're finding ourselves in now, where the debt is siphoning off resources for the one thing the government is responsible for, Michael, which is our protection against rogue states. The one thing that it has is the gun. The one thing that it can use, that it's supposed to use, that we give it permission to use, is the gun in defense of our rights and in defense of our property against criminals here and against rogue states abroad. And it now cannot effectively defend us. And if this debt continues, it's going to continue to siphon off resources from the defense, which is already woefully underpaid as we underfunded as we speak, Michael, because most people now think the government is a social welfare system, and war and rights defense, courts, all those things that the services that the government is actually supposed to provide are not the fundamental functions of government. So what do you do when a culture believes in that moral switch, that the government's real purpose is to, create social results through the use of force and redistributing incomes or instead of protecting its population from bad guys? I don't know, man. That's what we're trying to do that here, but we're small fish in a big pond.
Yeah, and Megan Ribbons, thank you for the $5. She says, "Does any economist estimate the projected increase in GDP, standard of living, innovation, if entitlements were privatized?" I would imagine so, Megan, but I'm not aware of it. I don't know, but I would imagine that information is out there. By the way, Megan, that was a great comment yesterday. Megan basically compared me to a little girl yesterday.
What? What happened? What'd you do?
I had an emotional outburst on the show.
What's this is usual. You always have an emotional outburst.
So,
What's so different about this one?
So Megan says when my daughter acts like that, I usually ask her if she's hungry. Does she need a nap? So maybe I was hungry and maybe I did indeed need a nap. But yeah, I'm very emotionally wound up these days. But thank you for the $5, Megan.
Do you want to talk about any of the reasons why this is happening? Because we've certainly experienced some interesting phenomenon with respect to our audience since we came out as woo defenders of the Constitution and woo strict followers of principle.
Yeah, well, this was what my outburst was about yesterday, just so you know. So maybe we'll have Mark have an outburst today, and then we can compare him to a little girl afterwards.
I'm not going to have an outburst about it, but look, it is a little discouraging, guys, when you actually stand for principle and find enemies who are supposed to be ideologically and philosophically and ethically aligned with you to have such a problem with your principled stance that they no longer want to have a relationship with you. You know, Mike, it shows how difficult it is to stand on principle in times when populism, emotions, populism is king, emotions run high, and emotions are guiding almost everybody out there in the political sphere.
Megan says your emotions are not wrong, Mike. She did correct the spelling. Thank you, Megan. Megan is awesome. So, you know, Mark, last night I woke up in the middle of the night and very, very stressful. I got the cluster headache going. And this is what I started to think to myself, you know, should I even be doing this? I mean, I've been doing the podcast thing 3 years now. Maybe it's time to just wrap it up. You know what I mean? Just call it quits. You know, my other show is not really growing. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It's growing, but not as rapidly as I'd like. It doesn't seem like we're making a difference in terms of bringing people to our side. What it seems to me like, what it is, Mark, is everybody is in a tribe. And the various successful podcasters, influencers, whatever you want to call them, simply speak that tribe's language. And that's how you get famous. That's how you make money. That's how you're successful. You do what Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Dave Smith, or any of them do, which I'm simply not, willing to do. And I was watching an episode of the Twilight Zone. Season 4, interestingly, on the Twilight Zone, they went to hour-long episodes. So this episode, and I'm only halfway through the episode, so if anybody knows what happens, don't tell me. But Dennis Hopper, the great, great Dennis Hopper, is in this episode. And basically what he's doing is he's becoming a Hitler, right? I think it's Hitler that's actually advising him, but I'm not certain, but that's what it seems like. But he's teaching him how to communicate emotionally to people. Right.
I actually don't know this episode.
Oh, it's really good so far.
I don't remember an episode with Dennis Hopper.
Right. So he's learning how to communicate via emotions so that he can, and now his crowds are increasing. He's gaining an influence. He's gaining power by doing so. They made up a bullshit story, false flag in essence that got everybody more wound up. And it's very, it's reminiscent kind of what's going on. And yes, happy Cinco de Mayo and Taco Tuesday. I actually went out already this morning, 11 a.m., down to the taco shop down the street, Three Amigos, our restaurant, and I got chicken tinga tacos with Mexican rice and black beans. It was fantastic. It was great. But yeah, Mark, my point ultimately is yes, it can be disheartening. And you just, I guess the thing is just, man up and woman up. I'm not a woman, but I don't want to be discriminatory, but adult up and just keep going, go through it. You know what I mean?
I think that's all there is, man. Look, we signed up for a difficult task. We are the true counterculture right now. And when you're against the tide, the popular tide, it feels bad because everybody is against you and everybody tries to make you feel like you're wrong, and they try to marginalize you even more than you already are. Oftentimes they misrepresent what you say because they're not listening through a rational lens, they're listening through an emotional lens, and they editorialize what you're saying to fit with their narrative of what they think you represent. And so that can be discouraging if you let that get to you, Michael. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, I've had years and years of experience of being piled on by the zombie hordes. And so I know exactly how vicious and horrible they are. And I've gone through all the things that you're going through, literal physical problems, because these people, they suck the life out of your soul and they try to ruin it at the same time. So they not only are emotional and spiritual vampires, they try to destroy your income too by spreading lies and infamy about you that unfortunately you can't really answer because it doesn't make any difference if you do answer them. I've tried all of that.
Have you heard about this nacho thing for Trump? Nacho?
Oh God, what?
Not a chance Hormuz opens?
Yeah. I haven't heard of it.
Well, that's actually our next story.
Okay, good. Go ahead. Start off.
Well, you're the guy that takes over that when you're here, dude.
I do? But I don't remember a Hormuz story, so maybe I didn't get it.
You got it.
I did?
Yeah. I'll save the day. Hold on a second.
I rely on you to save the day, Michael.
All right, the White House defends Hormuz plan as shipper's voice uncertainty. Trump, I don't know the extent of it because I've seen different accounts, but basically he's going to be using the U.S. military to escort ships through Hormuz. Iran says no way. Iran has, I guess they were attacking ships. They announced the United Arab Emirates property, and America has hit 7 Iranian boats. It says it seems the ceasefire is precarious. If you're firing at each other, it seems the ceasefire is over. Now, here's the, I don't know what is coming of this. I really don't, because at the beginning it was 4 to 6 weeks, it's done. Now we're 9 weeks into it, and I don't know. I don't even know what it's about anymore. At the beginning, they were supposed to get rid of their nuclear, get rid of their navy, get rid of their ballistic missiles, and there was going to be freedom for the people of Iran. Now it seems it's about opening the Straits of Hormuz, which were open when the thing started. What do you think? Nicole Hingle with the $5 super sticker.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you very much. Akira Felix says, I confused what you sent me with the Jacobin. That's why I didn't read it. No, what actually happened was, now that Michael called my attention to it, I just skipped over it in the queue, unfortunately. Not on purpose, Michael. I don't know why. I skipped over it by accident, I think.
But so you didn't read it?
I didn't read this, but it's okay because I want to read this out loud to everyone.
Out loud?
Out loud. Yeah,
read it out loud.
I just became
Scooby, not Shaggy. Scooby.
Right, Iran writes rotes in Rouge. That's what I'm going to do. Oh yeah, Iran strikes boats in the Straits of Hormuz, guys. So let's talk about this. This is no ceasefire, folks. This is a hot war again. Don't let Trump fool you. It's bullshit. Fighting resumed in the Persian Gulf on Monday as Iranian missiles and drones struck multiple vessels and a port in the United Arab Emirates, while also targeting U.S. Navy ships that were escorting commercial vessels through the Straits of Hormuz. In a news briefing, Admiral Brad Cooper, the commanding officer of American forces in the Iran war, said the U.S. military had aided 2 U.S. flagged ships in transiting the Straits of Hormuz, successfully defended against both drone and missile attacks, and destroyed 6 Iranian fast boats. Cooper added that the U.S. was reaching out to several hundred merchant vessels currently in the Persian Gulf to begin guiding them through the strait. The Wall Street Journal reported Monday that Trump is facing mounting pressure from Republican allies, including Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who said Iran had absolutely violated the ceasefire to authorize new strikes in Tehran, though the president has so far signaled he prefers to press ahead with diplomacy and avoid drawing the U.S. deeper into conflict. I'm sorry, Michael, but the diplomacy is what's drawing us deeper into the U.S. conflict. There's no avoiding the fact that you have to defeat the regime. You can't avoid it anymore. Trump is trying to avoid the fact that you have to defeat the regime in order to win this war.
Okay, so you haven't been paying attention because you're in the dark continent, as you say. But do you know that the 60 days is now up?
The 60 days is up, and as last I heard, he has not sought congressional approval.
No, he said he doesn't need it. He said the law is
Yeah.
unconstitutional. He said that the law is unconstitutional. Pete Hegseth said that he believes that the clock stops because there's a ceasefire, which was all BS. And
Correct.
I reminded the audience yesterday, I don't remember the guy's name. I wish I do, but you debated him on Razi's show. He was the lawyer, and he was talking about the War Powers Act and how the clock stops here and there. But okay, but now they're in violation of the War Powers Act too. It's not just the Constitution. So my question yesterday was, when is enough enough? With this guy not being restrained by law, and I don't know how people can still be okay with it.
Yeah, Michael. The only thing I can think of is there's a percentage of folks, maybe in the neighborhood of 25 to 30% of people, who hate the left so much with such vitriol that they will still back this guy because he fights the left. Now,
Or Iran.
and there are a number of people who of course, I mean, like you, I think it's the right war, the wrong president, the wrong way of attacking the war, and so it makes for a very complex and unfortunate situation. But there are those who are so allied with the idea of defeating Iran, which this president has so far not committed to in any respect, and they think he's the guy that's going to do it because he's the guy who has fired some shots at them. It's simply not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen, Michael. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert in Mideast affairs. I try to follow your own book for that stuff because I think he really does have his pulse on a lot of the relationships over there, and he seems to be positive about the UAE stepping out of OPEC and starting to chart an independent course, which I think, and an alliance with Israel, which I think he feels is good. I think Iran has also stated that he thinks that Trump is going to let Israel do the heavy lifting and just say, take the gloves off to Israel and let them do the brunt of the fighting while we sit back and reap the diplomatic benefits of that.
Well, I don't know how anybody could be confident of anything Trump's going to do. That's all I have to say about that. Maybe it's true. Maybe that's what maybe that's what Trump will do. He'll take it, take the restraints from Israel and let him do it. But I don't know how anybody could be confident of that. Trump has never demonstrated to me any characteristic by which I could predict he's going to do something like that.
Certainly not consistency. And look, Michael, if our enemies like Russia and China were looking at the way in which we were able to defeat their air systems so easily, they're also looking at the thing that we started addressing at the very beginning of the show, and that is, how are our fiscal resources? How much can we spend on defense and ordnance? Because, Michael, these guys throw a few drones at us. They saturate a system with drones. They probably cost them about $1 million to send those drones at us, and it costs us $3 or $4 billion every time we have to defeat those drones. That is a serious depletion of our ammunition. It's a serious depletion of our resources and finances. And trust me, our enemies are looking to this to see how long we can sustain this. Given the fact that we have a $36 trillion debt that is reaching the tipping point, this becomes a serious discussion that our Congress should be having right now. It's unavoidable because something has got to give, man.
You would think maybe property taxes will give.
Yeah, let's talk about property taxes, man, because I did see that stuff. And I'll tell you what, that is a particular thorn in my side. Can I tell you why? Can I tell you a personal story?
Sure.
All right, some fucking assessor comes out and looks at our house. I'm not even there when he looks at our house, but he doesn't go inside the house to see improvements we've made. He doesn't assess it based on any objective criteria that I can come up with. but suddenly our house is worth $200,000 or $300,000 more than it was initially, and I'm paying a tax reflective of a percentage of that increased estimation. Um, and Michael, that puts people in my age bracket and 20 years older in a very fucking precarious situation. So let's say I pay off my mortgage because I'm smart. I'm paying the principal. I'm not just paying the interest. I've been working hard to do it so that I can own something at the end that's a true asset, hard property. That's a real asset. That's something that everybody should try to acquire if they can. But if I don't pay that tax bill, which comes in my state, it's my tax bill is somewhere in the neighborhood of 15K a year. So, and you pay it in 6 month increments. So you pay it like $7,500 for 1/6, which is a fairly significant bill for somebody to have to pay in one fell swoop. $7,500 in the next increment. That's if I don't pay that and that tax bill accumulates, I lose the property, whether I own it straight out or not. That is not justice. That seems anti-American on its face.
Yeah, when I first heard about property taxes, I learned that that's the primary means by which the towns finance education. And it occurred to me that so if I were a person that said, I'm not going to have kids, I can't afford them, I'm going to save, I'm going to buy a house, and I do all that, and I buy my house, I have my car, I've made all the right choices, but then I have to pay for somebody else's kids to go to school by means of property tax. It's just absurd.
Yeah, and that disturbs me now, Michael, because all that money goes to paying for the school system that our kids don't patronize. Oh my Lord, I am getting attacked by a dog.
That
Our
dog
kids-
is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, he is. I have to subsidize other parents' children's education.
Right.
This isn't even paying necessarily for infrastructure or police department. Some states, I think it does do that kind of stuff, but for the most part, it's financing schools that I don't use. And I could frankly use that money in other ways that are more valuable to me. I mean, Michael, I always put taxes in terms that I think make it easier for people to relate to, because people aren't so freaked out about taking money from me and redistributing it. But if I say, look, you're taking a year's worth of college education or something from, my kid, or you're taking 2 years of groceries out of my mouth, or you've just taken 3 years of a car payment away, or medical insurance. Yeah, if I concretize it like that, and if people start concretizing what exactly it is that this money would go for in their own lives or wherever they want to send it, maybe people will start to understand that money represents real values in people's lives that are being diverted away from their lives and their happiness and their well-being for somebody else. It's the ultimate in sacrificial ethics, man.
I was reading one of the articles. They talked about the history of property tax in the United States, and it says that taxes based on ownership of property were used in ancient times, but the modern tax has roots in feudal obligations owned to British and European kings or landlords. The idea that just kind of makes me sick, I guess, is all I can say. That you're paying your dues to your kings or whatever. It's just not right. And it's one of those other things that we get to be pissed off about. One of the things that happens oftentimes when I'll post clips is somebody will say, oh, well, you have an opinion. Who cares? Nothing, the world is the same now as it was before you offered your opinion. And it's just like, so on top of everything else, you think that people should just shut up and not speak out against injustice about what's right and what's wrong. I don't know, Mark. It's a depressing thing. I understand why I depressed you.
It's very depressing, man, because you get people who are older or living on fixed incomes and they pay off their house because they're responsible people, and they can still stand to lose their property. It makes you feel like the concept of ownership, which I think was really one of the things that made America distinct and amazing and exceptional in the world is that you were a completely sovereign being, man. You owned your own place. You homesteaded a place. You owned your own place. There was so much property ownership here in the United States. It was unprecedented anywhere in the world. And now you can own your property and not. You're basically renting it from whatever fucking state you're in that decides to extort its property taxes from you, despite the fact that you don't use those resources that it's spending it on. That makes it worse. And I'm looking at a picture now, Michael, that really bothers me. I want to tell you about it right now. It's sort of
Hope it's not a picture of me.
no, it's not. It's actually a picture of a very good actress by the name of Sarah Paulson. Do you know Sarah Paulson?
I do. What did I first see her on? I believe she was on a show called Jack and Jill, if I'm not mistaken.
She might have been. She was also on a show called American Horror Story, and she played some amazing characters in that. She was one of the. She was a character in every season, and was a different character in each season. She's a very talented actor, but she went to the Met Gala, which is this big event sponsored by Amazon this year, where very wealthy people, entertainers, and people from across cultures go. And I don't even know what they celebrate there, but it's huge. She went there in a dress that was probably more expensive than most people's salaries are for an entire year or two, with a dollar bill taped over her face, over her eyes, in protest, Michael. In protest, I want to read it here real quickly. Well, I can't read my thing. She wears a dollar bill over her eyes to call out the 1%. To call out the 1% at an event in which she is part of not the 1%, but even a higher, probably the 0.2%. Michael, she's worth $12 million and has the audacity to do something like this. It's just driving me insane, man.
I get it. I don't. People. I don't know. White guilt. I don't know. Rich people guilt. They feel like they don't.
Can I tell you what I wrote in my tweet? I said, actors or anyone feeling guilty about their wealth and morally posturing to pretend they abide by sacrificial ethics. Fuck that. I said, how boring and pedestrian. Our dog is crying because Tracy just left. I said, how boring and pedestrian. She's good. She earned it. She should be proud. Instead, her moral code makes her feel shame and compels her to performative and hypocritical ethics. I'm surprised at how small even the most talented souls are. Sorry, but that just strikes me as a small-souled human being.
Yeah,
I know
I
it's
agree.
off topic.
No, it's fine. I mean, people that feel guilt about making money or want other people to feel guilt about making money. I mean, that's just the garbage ethic that's enmeshed in our culture. It was also enmeshed in a different culture, by the way, Mark, for a while there, back in the 1780s and 90s. I don't know if you knew that.
Yes, it was, man. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about these moralists in the 18th century that led the French Revolution. And you have to talk because my dog is spazzing. And
Your dog is going sick. So there's a good article from the Foundation for Economic Education this morning from Lawrence Reed. And it's called Two Monsters of the French Revolution Who Were Consumed by Power and Lost Their Heads on the Same Day. This was Louis-Antoine de Saint-Just and Maximilien Robespierre. And they were both guillotined after leading many others to the guillotine. And evidently, before the revolution, they were pretty ordinary guys. I mean, they weren't like fanatical. There was nothing that they said or did that would have indicated ahead of time that they would turn into these monsters, but they ultimately got a little bit of power, and they ended up. So it says here, leading up to the Reign of Terror, Jacobin rhetoric became increasingly absolutist, moralized, and apocalyptic. Figures like Jean-Paul Marat, Maximilien Robespierre, and Louis-Antoine Saint-Just framed politics not as disagreement among citizens, but as a life or death struggle between virtue and corruption. Marat had a newspaper. He was killed in a tub by Charlotte Corday at another time. But anyway, he says He frequently called for the executions of traitors, hoarders, enemies of the people. And so what made me think when I saw that was this idea of traitors, enemies of the people. This is the type of language that we hear a lot of. And, I don't want to. That's the specific language that Trump uses: traitors, enemies of the people. But his political opponents, while they are, right now clutching their pearls over it, have been known to, call people racists, out of turn, and call people the enemies of democracy. But it didn't quite get as much attention as it does when Trump does it. That's not the kind of language that you want bandied about in your civil discourse. Because as in, I'm not saying it's going to lead to a reign of terror as it did back then, but it certainly doesn't help avoid it. What say you, Mark? We can hear your dog. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
He's better now. She got
All right.
him. She came back.
Okay.
Yeah, I think both of those guys were fans of Rousseau, and it shows to me. It shows the importance of philosophy in the kinds of people they transform into once they gain power. Michael, I know the saying is absolute power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Who said it?
That's it's was it the author of the Rise and Fall of the Fall of the Roman Empire?
No, that's Edward Gibbons. No,
Edward Gibbons. I thought it was Edward Gibbons.
Lord Acton said it.
Lord Acton. Very good. I knew that and forgot it, but thank you for reminding me. But it's not that power corrupts you, Michael. It's a corrupt psychology. It's somebody with a corrupt philosophy that gains power, where he has now has the freedom to let that philosophy completely guide his actions. And those guys were guided by a Rousseauian philosophy, Michael. They adapted that the idea of the body politic, and that each and every individual should be subsumed into this collective as the thing that they were working for. So all they did when they got into power was attempt to achieve the ideal that they both worshipped and promoted. Do you know what Robespierre's nickname was called?
No.
He was called the Incorruptible. He was called the Incorruptible because he was seen as somebody who was utterly and totally consistent in his ethical principles. Well, Michael, I don't think somebody who really takes objectivist principles seriously, who really takes the founding fathers' principles of governance seriously, is capable of, once acquiring power, of going off the ends like that and becoming a monster. You become a monster or a full human being based on the ethics that you practice and the philosophy that guides you.
So one of my favorite quotes, well, I don't know favorite, but it's a great quote from Will Durant in his book Story of Philosophy. And he's talking about Rousseau. And he says Rousseau was everywhere leveling. And when the revolution fell into the hands of his followers, Marat and Robespierre, equality had its chance and liberty got guillotined. And that is one apt freaking description.
It's great. Yeah, it's great. And now we are approaching, Michael, a political situation in which the atmosphere seems very similar, and the politicians have a very similar a moral take on the purpose of the individual in society. And one of the reasons I feel so depressed about these articles that I've had to read is that the way out, of course, is objectivism, provided objectivism can come out from behind the fringes of culture and actually assert itself a little bit more dominantly. That's a lot harder than it seems, though, Michael. It's harder in practice than it is abstract.
Well, sound philosophy is certainly the answer. And by the way, on the weekends now, we do a special edition, Capitalist Quarter Weekend Edition, where we get more in-depth discussions of philosophy. So I highly recommend that everybody tunes into those.
Right on. All right, Michael. Do we have to leave now because you have to go work?
we still have to do the capitalist thought of the day, and we have to do the question of the day, and we have to do the questions from yesterday, and we have to thank everybody for super chats and super stickers. So there are some things that need attending to.
So why don't you go look up the answers to the question yesterday? I will take the capitalist thought of the day. Look, I think a capitalist political system would respect individual rights and understand that fiscal responsibility would have to be the essence of what the government would practice. I think rights, individual rights, would be the restraining mechanism on government. It would be the guiding principle that would restrain government spending. They would only spend it on that which enabled it to protect individual rights. They would understand they have a fiduciary responsibility to their constituents to protect them and not to steal from them and redistribute material wealth to other people. That is not what a capitalist government would do. A capitalist government protects individual rights, and part of that is being financially, fiscally responsible to the constituents, folks. Michael, did you find the answers to the questions?
I certainly did. So the question yesterday was, should Persephone keep the cat ear headphones or ditch them? Akira Felix says absolutely effing not. Jenna Kleem says keep them. Jeanette says keep the ears. They're really cute. Megan Ribbon says, when my daughter delivers a monologue like that, my follow-up is, are you hungry? Do you need a nap? Do you need a cuddle? I need all of them. And then Steve Has Game says, I can't watch Michael get emotional. Just state your position and guide the show how you want. Ignore those who try to get you annoyed. But nobody was trying to get me annoyed, so I don't really know what that is. What that is all about. My question for everybody in the audience is, and please go to YouTube and answer this question, or just go to YouTube and answer the question, and also like, share, and subscribe. Has your view on the war in Iran, regardless of what it is, has it changed at all since the beginning of the war? Also, remember, no everyday ethics today, but tomorrow we'll be back on. Mark, are you here tomorrow?
I will be here tomorrow.
Okay, Mark is going to be here tomorrow. That is awesome. So please go to YouTube. It helps with the algorithm. Answer the question. The question is, has your view on the Iran war changed at all since the beginning of the war? All right, Mark, take us out.
All right, guys, you got 23 hours to check your premises. I hope you do. If you're thinking that hopefully you check your premises with respect to the Iran war, check your premises with respect to constitutional governments, check your premises with respect to fiscal responsibility on the part of government. Check your premises, period, on everything, my friends. You got 23 hours to do that. We'll see you in 23, all right? Check your premises. Peace.